Hey guys, this is Andre the Fury Feely. You're listening to Verbal Scrap.
This is Rick Rieger, and you're listening to the Verbal Scrap Podcast.
This is Keto Andrews, and you're listening to the Verbal Scrap Podcast. This is Nan Fan, and you're listening to the Verbal Scrap Podcast.
I'm a fighter. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to fight.
Hey, this is Dave Hirschbein, MMA Gold, and you're listening to the Verbal Scrap.
I've worked so hard to do what I got to do in here. I took so much blood for this sport. I took so much pain, everything for this sport.
Hey, y'all, this is Zeke Johnston. You're listening to SRMMA.com Verbal Scrap. Stay tuned. They got some good stuff coming up.
This is Jay Wah of SRMMA.com on the Verbal Scrap Podcast, episode 26, entitled Strikeforce, Really? And that's only because there's some big news out of Strikeforce that happened over the past weekend, the Strikeforce event that Daniel Cormier and Frank Mir were originally scheduled to fight on and then moved to Oklahoma with Gilbert Melendez and Pat Haley fighting for the lightweight title. Well, Gilbert Melendez got injured, and so that fight is off. And it bums me out so much that we have to talk about more fighters getting injured and more fights being canceled. And it just so happens on the same night UFC on Field TV, Struve vs. Miocic was on. It was a spectacular affair with Dan Hardy taking on Amir Sadallah as well, with Dwayne Bane Ludwig taking on Che Mills on the card. There's a lot of news we got to get into today. Also some local news from the Sacramento area with the IKF Art of War kickboxing and Muay Thai event that happened. It was really entertaining, and we're going to get into a lot of that coverage as well. I want to first and foremost thank our show sponsor, MMA Gold, MMAGold.com. They're a full fighter apparel and sponsorship company. You should check out their store at MMAGold.com, where 100% of the profits go back into the fighters. Let's first get into some UFC 152 news. That also took place since our last podcast, in case you guys have forgotten, since the UFC on Field TV event. John Jones took on Vitor Belfort, Demetrius Johnson took on Joseph Benavidez, and Michael the Count Bisping took on Brian Stann in the middleweight division at UFC 152. John Jones, in the main event of the evening, was able to defend his title. The first round was crazy intense because Vitor Belfort was able to sink in this ridiculously tight armbar, and it looked like there was a real opportunity that Vitor Belfort would be able to pull it out. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to. It's reported, as you can check out on SRMMA.com, that John Jones reportedly said he might have nerve damage at the time because of the armbar event. But let's hear some post-fight highlights.
John Jones put his title on the line against the phenom Vitor Belfort, and though Vitor had a bright moment early on, it was mostly Jones most of the time.
Yeah, John Jones started off the fight, really, in my opinion, the right way. He didn't want to strike with Vitor early because he's so explosive. We saw how many first-round finishes Vitor had. What does John Jones do? Take him down. But right here, he was in a very difficult position with that armbar. So much stress on that elbow joint. John Jones toughed out of it, and from there, he just took over with short elbows. He cut Vitor up, and really from there, he made a statement right there and said, "You're not going to submit me. I'm going to take control of this fight."
Anywhere you put this guy, he does damage. If you decide that you want to be a submission artist against him because nobody's tried to, he'll go ahead and cut you up with elbows. If you decide you want to stand with him, he'll throw the front kicks, determine the distance, determine the range, keep the speed where he wants it standing, pick you apart slowly until you get to finish. If you want to wrestle with him, he'll throw you. He'll put you on your back. The point is, John Jones is a complete champion and a complete fighter, and he's proven that over and over again.
There's no fighter in the UFC today who makes the UFC octagon their home more than John Jones. He goes out there and he is free to do whatever he wants. Throwing side kicks to the knee, spinning attacks. This guy, in the way that he performs, it's amazing to watch.
Oh! Well, John Jones did retain his UFC light heavyweight title with his fourth consecutive title defense. That ties him for second all-time with Chuck Liddell at 205 pounds.
And there you go. John Jones defends his light heavyweight title. It was an epic affair, and I think Vitor Belfort showed that the old Lions, as he called them, came out and they can prove that they can fight just like they used to back in the day where fighters fought, as Vitor Belfort explains it. Also on the card, Michael Bisping was able to defeat Brian Stann. It was a decision victory for him. It was back and forth. Brian Stann eventually caught him with a really big shot, but Michael Bisping was able to counter. He was able to pick his shots. He was quicker to the punch, and afterwards he was really discussing that he felt he was qualified to get the next title shot at Anderson Silva, who's, mind you, is going to be fighting Stephan Bonner at UFC 153 in the light light heavyweight division, which is crazy, but he's going to have to wait. Michael the Count Bisping was saying that he feels he will be world champion someday. So let's hear a little bit about what his feelings are in the middleweight division.
Michael Bisping, who just defeated Brian Stann tonight. And Michael, congratulations on a big win for you. How would you assess your performance tonight?
I was happy with it. Obviously, it could have been better. I could have stopped him. I could have not got caught with a big punch in the first round. But other than that, I'm very happy. I haven't got any injuries. I haven't got any marks on me. I implemented my game plan well, apart from the fact I didn't stop him. I was faster to the punch. I was the better striker. I was the better wrestler. I felt stronger. It was a good victory. He landed a good punch in the first round. Pardon me. Other than that, I felt fine the whole way through it.
You've had some close calls in the UFC. Were you at all nervous that the judges wouldn't give it to you?
Yeah, of course. You've always got to be nervous when it goes to the judges these days. You never know what they're going to do. I felt I won the fight. I think rounds 2 and 3 were clearly mine. And fortunately, the judges were correct.
Some nice wrestling you showed tonight, and you've in the past not been known to be a wrestler. Was that a point you were trying to make tonight, that you are a well-rounded fighter?
It wasn't necessarily a point I was trying to make, but my wrestling and my my wrestling and my general MMA skills I've been working on hard over the years. So I'd be a fool not to try and implement those skills. There we go.
Playing will help as well.
Yeah. My ears need to pop.
And I'll be very quick here. Did he do anything out there that you didn't expect him to do?
There was nothing I didn't expect at all. He did what I thought he would do. He'd throw leg kicks and he'd throw a good right hand, left hook. I read his punches. I felt faster. I landed some really good shots. Brian's a tough guy. He's certainly got a good chin, a big chin and a strong chin. I hit him with some powerful shots and he took them well. I got nothing but respect for Brian Stann. He's a great guy. He really is. And it's been a lot of fun promoting this fight with Brian. I wish him all the best in his career. And, I look forward to seeing him again soon. And maybe we can have a beer later. Who knows?
Final question. Obviously, Anderson Silva's fighting next month. There's a lot that can happen. Yeah. Will you be disappointed if your next fight isn't for the UFC middleweight title?
Yes and no. I love what I do. I love being a part of the UFC. And a fighter is who I am. That's what I was telling myself before the fight. This is what I do. This is who I am. Staring at myself in the mirror. This is what I do. And I will do this as long as there's air in my body. I'll do this for as long as I can. And whether my next fight's for the belt or not, I'll still continue to love this and do this and be proud to do it. And I'll keep doing it until I get my shot. And whether that's in my next fight or my 5th fight, I will get a shot at the title. And I will be world champion one day. Trust me, I'm going nowhere.
And there you go. Michael the Count Bisping was able to get another victory in the middleweight division and move himself up to possibly a #1 contendership. Man, if you haven't had an opportunity to hear our show before, we got a lot of stuff we're yet to cover. We got the Titans Cage welterweight champion Angelo Trevino in store. He's going to be talking to us about his title defense on October 20th on the Titans Cage card. We also have Arlene Colbreth, who's the Dogs of War 145-pound female champion. She's going to be fighting for another featherweight title at the Art of War event entitled MMA Gold. That's going to be taking place at the Chicken Ranch Casino October 6th. She's in store. We also got Justin Baseman, the former WFC welterweight champion. He talked to us about going to the UFC tryouts, so we're going to have a little bit more to hear from him. But one more thing on the UFC 152 card, Demetrius Johnson took on Joseph Benavidez for the first ever flyweight title. And if you guys didn't get a chance to see that, that was spectacular. I don't know why people don't seem to like the flyweight division a little bit more. But now that we have an opportunity, let's hear some of the post-fight highlights of the entire fight.
In the co-main event of the night, Joseph Benavidez battled Demetrius Johnson for the inaugural flyweight title. This was a terrific fight, all action-packed from the word go.
This fight was unreal. The way that the fans just were giving it a little bit of a tough time, I think, was unfair. These guys threw down. They were nonstop. How about DJ? His footwork was impeccable. He hit that counter left hook, counter right hook. He was switching in transition during the fight. How about these low kicks? And Benavidez did get a few of those takedowns, but he just could not hold down Mighty Mouse. Mighty Mouse's submission defense is top-notch. He landed the bigger, more strikes, more often, and that was the tail of the tape throughout the entire fight.
Dominic, tell it like it is. He basically took a page out of your book to get the win against Benavidez. He was in, he was out, he was mixing it all up. Just looked phenomenal. That was a very close fight. That was a great fight and a great, really debut for these flyweights.
Well, Johnson becomes the first ever flyweight champion and moves to 2-0-1 in the division. He moves to 5-1-1 in his last 6 fights. Now, the loser, Joseph Benavidez, snaps a 4-fight win streak and suffers his first loss to someone not named Dominic Cruz. And basically, Demetrius just did more of everything, and he did it better tonight.
And that's exactly what he did to become the first flyweight champion. It was a spectacular affair. And on UFC 152, man, I have to say, it was a really good show that John Jones and Vitor Belfort definitely stole. It was a highly anticipated affair. And if you like more stuff, Seth Baczynski was able to knock out Simeon Thornton. You can check out srmma.com. And for all you guys listening, we're on our new Spreaker channel. You can check out our new stuff of the Verbal Scrap podcast at the bottom of all of our articles. You can subscribe to our iTunes. So if you can check us out with all your fantasy football, I know that's what I'm doing. And I have to say, I've been able to pick up 2 sweet wins back to back. So that's what I'm talking about. Team SR MMA with a 2-0. I'm not going to talk about my losses, but 2-0 in my last 2. So I feel really good. You can check us out with any of your PTI, Around the Horn, all kinds of stuff. You can download us the same way on our iTunes. So go to the bottom of our all of our articles, and you can find links to that. And UFC 152, like I said, Cub Swanson. Oh man, that's the last thing I wanted to talk about on this card. Cub Swanson got a huge first round knockout over Charles Oliveira, and man, that dude it was at a catch weight about, I believe, 146 pounds. I think Oliveira wasn't able to make weight, but Cub Swanson knocked him out. And that guy's got a big, awesome SoCal tattoo on his stomach, so I'm always repping him like, yeah, go Cub Swanson. So if you haven't checked that out, you can check out all kinds of UFC 152 post-fight coverage on srmma.com, which leads us into this really awesome interview since we're on the UFC. We got to talk to Justin the Raw Deal Baseman, who talked to us about his experience at the UFC tryouts in Las Vegas that happened recently. So let's hear Justin Baseman in our interview with him. This is Jay Watt from SRMMA.com. We're talking to the former West Coast Fighting and Gladiator Challenge welterweight champion, Justin the Raw Deal Baseman. How you doing today, Justin?
Good, doing good. Thanks for having me back on, brother. How are you?
Man, I'm good. It's always good to have you back on. I heard that you had the opportunity to go for the Ultimate Fighter 17 open tryouts for middleweights and light heavyweights. I'm assuming you went as middleweight. They were in Las Vegas. You know, what was the thought process about going to those tryouts, especially considering you did just have a title fight recently?
I went out and like you said, it's open tryouts, so you go out, get all signed up. You do one part is jiu-jitsu, so you roll for 2 minutes. You get past that. They usually have a striking part. You get past that, and they have an interview. Try to get your freeze up on their interview. They want to see personality. And, after that, you know, they send you to one more interview, which does usually freeze people up. I haven't walked in and was like, oh. But I had to remind myself that, hey, I'm meant to be here. I'm here for a real reason, and I shown that. And then the interview went great, and then they had me do a bunch of testing and stuff throughout the week, and it was a blast, man. It was a great feeling getting through every step. And I tried out before 2 years ago in Chicago for the U.S. versus UK, and I didn't get so far, but this time went really good, and I'm thankful, and I'm ready. So it's a blessing.
Well, when they ask you these kind of questions, were they asking you like pretty straightforward questions, just kind of toughies, or were they trying to ask you strange, weird things that kind of catch you off guard?
Oh yeah, I talked to a few other guys, and they were making fun of guys, and they'd say, "Oh, you don't look like a fighter," or "You don't look like a 185er," or you know, they tell guys some crazy stuff. They didn't even get a chance to ask me any questions. I think they maybe asked me 2 questions, 3 questions out of 20 minutes. I take one question and just feed them so much information they didn't know what to do. Plus, I was going crazy. When I walked into the room, the original first interview, I walked into the room, I threw off my hat, I screamed as loud as I could. I was like, I'm so happy to be here. I just started freaking out, you know. There was no way they were freezing me up, you know.
Well, I saw on, if you check out our Facebook.com/SRMMA, I saw that 5150 had a cool little video of you and kind of some of the stuff you were doing at the tryouts, and then your jiu-jitsu thing. So I watched you roll with, I don't know how many guys they had you roll with, but I only saw you roll with one guy. Do they just have like one particular jiu-jitsu match for you, or do they have like a back-to-back kind of thing? What's the process like that?
Yeah, you go up against one guy. It's just 1 2-minute roll, and that's it for that part of the tryout. And they match you up with somebody that's close to your weight, because like this time they weren't sure if they're going to do the 205ers, so they kind of had the guys that were going for the 205s that said they can cut to 185 try out for the 185. So they kind of match with weight and they match with record. So they try to get some guys that have the same amount of fights, close to the same weight, and they get you in there and they have you roll for 2 minutes. And it was a pretty intense roll. The guy I was rolling with was really strong. I probably went for a few triangles, a guillotine. I couldn't see nothing in, but I just stayed really busy. I recognized when I couldn't get it and moved to the next one. I think they saw that, and that's why I got past that part.
Yeah, that was a really, really good little roll I saw, man. And if you check it out, I would say it's a pretty intense experience because it looked like that guy was trying to get on top of you most of the time. But you were, like I said, going for a lot of submissions, and that was pretty entertaining. I wanted to ask you, what was it like? I heard it was in a ballroom kind of area. Was it weird, kind of just throwing out the mats and rolling in that kind of atmosphere?
Yeah, it's a little different. Like, I guess it's kind of like a fight, you know. You got to try to get used to it the best you can. But once they say go, everything fades away, and it's just you and him, you know. So it was pretty intense. But yeah, it was crazy. Joe was there. Usually Dana's there. This hasn't happened too many times, but sometimes Dana White's there. And every time you get a submission, he'll give you $100 for how many submissions you got during the tryout.
That's sweet.
But he made it there, but he wasn't there to pass out C-notes, but I didn't get me anyway. So.
Well, I wanted to ask you, we kind of talked about it previously, but what were the differences you saw between the first time you tried out in Chicago and then this time trying out in Las Vegas? You had said you've been in the game a little bit longer, so you kind of had a different attitude going into this one. But what were the differences you saw between the two tryouts?
Oh, well, yeah, in Chicago, I only had 6 fights under my belt at the time, but there was like 800 people that tried out for that, and it was like a 20-plus hour process, you know, and there was so many people crammed in the little room, and like, you know, guys walking around sizing everybody up. I mean, people were probably exhausted from sizing people up. There was just so many people, you know, and it was just, oh, man, it was crazy. It was so intense. Everybody staring each other down. And you get in there, and with this trial in Vegas, after every roll, like, you know, people were clapping and stuff, and it was kind of a friendly feel. But in Chicago, there was nothing. You know, like people were getting sent in the ambulance just at tryouts, but they were real serious. Man. It seemed like everybody was just hungry as hell, man. It was crazy. But out here in Vegas, yeah, you know, I've been in the game a little longer, so I've seen some faces I knew, and it was a little more laid back. There wasn't as many people. But can you imagine, like, 800 fighters staring at each other in one little room? I should have brought my gun.
That's even worse than when you watch the shows, like the first day, and there's just fight after fight after fight. 800 guys, man. That's some intense stuff. I wanted to ask you also. You know, I know that you're really big on family, and you it means a lot to you. And you also, when you roll with Riley from 5150, you guys kind of have like that family atmosphere. You guys are really close, kind of like brothers. And what does it mean to you to be involved with this process and have the family support that you have, and the guys from 5150 and then the other things you work with, to just be behind you and support you through a process as big and as comprehensive as this one?
Oh man, it's great. They've been a blessing, you know. Like I thank Riley every time I talk to him, man, and the crew, because man, I don't think I'd be this far without them, you know. Like when I was fighting, I was going back and forth from managers, and you might have heard this name before, but Tommy Rojas was managing me. My first coach in MMA, Rudy Valentine, was managing me, and like I was kind of doing it on my own too, you know, just trying to get out there, and didn't really know the game too well, and then Riley got his eyes on me, man, and then it's just been heaven sent since. He's been guiding me in the right direction, making sure that all my fights are worth it and have a purpose behind it, and I'm actually moving up, and it's just been great. The support has been really good, you know. It's been keeping me strong, keeping me motivated, and it's a really big deal, and I just feel really blessed, you know. I just feel like I have wings now. Before I was just struggling, you know, crawling.
Well, I wanted to ask you last before we let you go. You know, I know you can't talk too much as far as in the process with the UFC, night. But what do you think being on The Ultimate Fighter does for athletes, you know, that you see involved with the show that you have seen before? What do you think that the process of not only, you know, getting on the show, but maybe getting a fan following through the process of The Ultimate Fighter? Well, you know, how have you seen it benefit other fighters? And if that was to happen to you, if you were able to make that transition, if you get involved with them, what do you think that could do for you in the same way?
Oh yeah, I think it's a really big opportunity for anybody to get into it. So, all those fighters out there, because the only requirement to have is to have at least 3 professional fights. So if you got that on your belt, I mean, it's worth to go try out. Because if you do get on the show, or even if you just go fight for the house, that's on television. So that'll help you out a lot. I got a few buddies that made it past, and just recently Max Griffin got on there, and he did great in his fight, and that helped him out a lot. That blew him up, So like, no matter what, you go in there and you win 1 or 2 and lose, or you go in there and lose the first one, it doesn't matter. Like, that's such a big step. You get seen by so many people, and it's almost like grabbing a piece of your dream and like letting you know that you have a chance to really make it. So I mean, and the motivation for this, like, I've just been training like crazy, even though when I got back, even though it wasn't like for sure yes or no or nothing in concrete, I've still been training like crazy just for the simple fact that it might happen, So, I mean, it's great for all fighters. I think it's one of the biggest, or it's the biggest organization in the world when it comes to MMA. So, just that alone is motivation like crazy.
Well, there you go. It's Justin in the Raw Deal basement. Where's a good place for fans if they want to get a hold of you or stay in contact with you? Is it Facebook? Is that the best way to get involved with you, Justin?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter too under Justin the Raw Deal.
Well, there you go, man.
Yeah, but
I know I got you on Twitter. You follow at SRMMA tweets. You can find the Raw Deal. I think it's Raw Deal 04.
Yeah, Raw Deal 04. That's right.
There you go, Justin the Raw Deal basement. Wish the best for you, and let's hope that you can get involved with the UFC. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you, brother.
And that was the Raw Deal. And that man is, if he can get into the house, he's going to be a beast. I've seen that guy fight a couple times live now, and he'll give anybody hassles if he can get into that UFC season 17, I believe. So best of luck to him. Let's get into some of our national news, which is brought to you by Bulletproof Energy Drink. If you guys haven't heard of Bulletproof Energy, they are helping wounded veterans 1 can at a time. They donate a little bit of every can to veterans foundations. And you guys might not have known this. I knew this for sure because I was going to go to it. But September 29th, Strikeforce was going to be at the Power Balance Pavilion in Sacramento, California. And Pat Haley was going to take on Gilbert Melendez for the lightweight title. And that fight got scratched after Melendez was injured, and Pat Haley discussed how devastated he was that he wasn't able to get that title fight.
I found out last night, so basically right before everybody else did. I was so disappointed, I've worked so hard for this, I've gone through many tough times in my career, many different organizations. Finally feel like I have a home with Strikeforce, and, I've got 5 wins in a row, and so it just like everything came together for this moment, I felt like everything was clicking, and I was just devastated. You spend a lot of money in a camp, I had trainers, I went out to Hawaii, trained with BJ, it's not like you spend a lot more money preparing yourself, the way you eat, everything, I think I've earned my shot. They gave it to me. I don't think they're going to take it away from me just because Gil got injured right at the last minute.
And that was Pat Healy discussing how he felt now that he lost the chance to fight for the lightweight title in Strikeforce with Melendez on the shelf. Originally on the card, like I said, there was Daniel Cormier set to take on Frank Mir. Now, I don't usually play conspiracy theories, but I do have one here. Okay, and hear me out. It sounds really weird, right? So Daniel Cormier is set to take on Frank Mir in Strikeforce, the first ever UFC crossover to Strikeforce fight. I don't think I ever found, and I'll research this tonight just because I said so, but I don't think I ever found any video or any article of Frank Mir actually talking about fighting Daniel Cormier. Like, I never heard him discuss it, as if he probably knew maybe there's a chance I'm not going to be fighting him anyway. So then all of a sudden they pull that fight from the card for no reason, move it to Oklahoma for no reason whatsoever, even though they say they didn't really concretely say they were going to be fighting at Power Balance anyway, and there was already the lightweight title fight between Melendez and Healy. So they pull that off the card. Then all of a sudden on that night, that same night, if you didn't notice, UFC on Fuel TV had a card, which was Stefan Struve versus Stipe Miocic, I wouldn't say it was one of their biggest cards ever, considering we just talked John Jones versus Belfort. So it would be really convenient and highly I can't even think of the word. It would be highly convenient for the Zuffa-owned Strikeforce to not have the show, because then what are you going to watch? Maybe you'll watch UFC on Field TV. Like I said, I have no proof of this, and I'm a journalist. So, like I said, you can't quote me on any of this. But this is a hunch, and it's a pretty logical hunch. Like, if you're into astrology or anything like that, maybe you'll be on my side. I don't know why you'd be on my side, but I figure I could pull the astrology crap. So, Daniel Cormier... he's going to fight Frank Mir. Frank Mir gets injured. So all that fuss for no reason because Frank Mir's off the card. And in case you didn't know, Daniel Cormier was talking about Frank Mir, kind of who he wanted to fight and how he thought that Frank Mir was perfect for him. So let's hear Daniel Cormier's opinion of that.
Frank Mir made perfect sense for the fight. He had just lost for the title, so he was nowhere near contention. It's who does the UFC feel comfortable with sending over to Strikeforce without losing a marquee matchup down the line? It's a ton of things that actually plays in. I don't care. It could be the best guy. I don't care who I fight. I just want to fight. I want to get this fight done, and I want to get over and complete one part of my career and move on to the next.
Is that part of the line of thinking here? Just get this over with. Doesn't matter against two, so that you can finally debut in the UFC.
Well, I mean, it's part of it because with the disappointment from losing Frank, it's like, okay, get somebody in there, let me know who I'm fighting, so then I can move on and start preparing for the next step in my career, the next phase. So I don't care who it is, and I've kind of shown that over the course of my career. Whoever they line up, I fight. You said fight Bigfoot Silva 5 weeks after I fought Jeff Munson. Okay, I'll fight him. Fight I beat him. Fight Josh Barnett. I don't care who I fight. So whoever they tell me to fight, I'll fight.
Is there a chance that it is someone outside of the... would you be disappointed if it's someone who's not as big of a name as a Frank Mir, or are you going to try to, campaign for a big UFC named fighter?
Well, I've never campaigned, so that's not what I'm going to do. But if they send somebody over with a big name, it's good. Listen, you said, will I be disappointed if it's a guy from outside the UFC? Then you lose the whole UFC guy coming over to Strikeforce. That's kind of one of the bigger angles. That's all I heard when I was doing the media down there. So it's I think it needs to be a guy from the UFC coming over so you can kind of play up the whole Strikeforce UFC angle. So I don't know. I mean, it has to be one of the guys from here, though, I think.
And, if you didn't know, Cain Velasquez, who's also a teammate of Daniel Cormier, a lot of speculation, since that's all that seems to happen in the fight world. You speculate, what if this guy fought that guy? What if that guy fought that guy? Well, if maybe Cain Velasquez fights Junior Dos Santos, is able to take on the heavyweight title from him, and Cormier is still the Strikeforce heavyweight champion, and maybe they pull him over to the UFC after he's able to pull off another victory, then they have a title versus title fight. It might be Cain Velasquez versus Daniel Cormier, and that's always kind of a weird dynamic, considering there's so many guys that are teammates that don't want to fight each other because they're teammates. And Cain Velasquez was actually asked about this by a fan at kind of an open expo, so let's hear what Cain Velasquez had to say.
They would never fight each other, and obviously you and Daniel are both top heavyweights, and there's rumors that if he wins his next fight, he might get a shot at the UFC belt, which could be yours at the time. Would you two fight each other if the belt was on the line?
With guys being in the same weight class, and then fighting, and then being one guy, I think only in a certain situation where one guy has a belt and one guy is coming in for a title shot, then that's the only possibility that it could happen. I heard Daniel might be moving down in weight when he comes to the UFC, but he's we just have to wait and see. But that's what I've heard, and the thing with if it isn't a title fight, then it's, we fight every day. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you want to see us fight, come to the gym. You see that all the time. So,
great, thank you.
And that was Cain Velasquez. He makes a really good point. If you want to see him fight, I'm in the ring with him at AKA all the time. You can come down, check it out, maybe look out the window. Who knows? And honestly, it seemed like he was a little bit hesitant to answer that question, a little uneasy and maybe a little unsure, because that is a really strong possibility. And UFC President Dana White always has something to say. And little might you know this, Matt Mitrione, in case you don't remember him, because he's been slowly gaining momentum through the middleweight division, through the heavyweight division. He was actually apparently offered to fight Daniel Cormier and declined the fight, which blew UFC President Dana White's mind. He talked about it and more.
I hear you. I get it then. I get it. You don't want big opportunities.
He's been off the radar for a while. That would have been a way to get pretty far back up there.
I could not agree with you more. You are reading my mind.
They don't confuse you.
All I can say is I guess he doesn't want big opportunities. I get it. I duly noted.
Did it not confuse you at all that I'd want to fight with Rampage but not with Cormier?
Yeah. He wants to fight a guy that weighs 205 but doesn't want to fight the guy who's the real heavyweight and legitimate guy who's ranked. And Mitrione's not getting any younger.
What did Cormier have to say about that fight? Did you talk to him about Mitrione?
Cormier will fight anybody.
Sure.
Yeah, the guys who are the real guys fight anybody, man. Fight anybody.
And that was UFC President Dana White. He was, which is kind of true. I don't understand why Matt Mitrione wouldn't take a Daniel Cormier fight unless he maybe thought that he would get beaten really badly and he didn't want to go through that. That would probably be the only reason, but I can't say. That's just conjecture. Like, who knows? I can't think of any good reason why that wouldn't happen, and neither could UFC President Dana White. And like I said, all of our national coverage today is brought to you by Bulletproof Energy Drink. You can help out the veterans by buying one can of that stuff because they help them out one can at a time. You know, it brings me into this stuff that SR is going to be covering. We're going to be going to the Chicken Ranch Casino October 6th for the Art of War event entitled MMA Gold. The Dogs of War champion, 145-pound female champion Arlene Colbreth is going to be fighting for another featherweight title against Donna Castro on the event. And we had the opportunity to speak to her when I was at this kickboxing event. So let's hear Arlene Colbreth and what she had to say.
This is Jay Watt from SRMA.com. We're here live at the Art of War Kickboxing and Muay Thai event, talking to the Dogs of War 145-pound champion, Arlene Colbreth, who's going to be fighting for another featherweight title on October 6th. I understand it's at a catchweight, but it's still for the title. What are your thoughts on that title fight?
My thoughts on the title fight? I'm just ready for it to be here. I'm ready to put on a good show, and
what's the anticipation process like? You know, when you know a fight's coming, what's it like for a fighter just waiting and waiting and waiting, when especially being at a place where you see competition happening in front of you?
Oh, it amps me up for sure. Like, I love watching, you know, I mean, I got into it for a reason. I love everything about the sport, so being around it just gets me more excited for my fight. I don't really look at it as like anticipation, but more like I can't wait for my next show.
Have you competed since the World Combat Series?
No, that was my last.
So what are your thoughts, you know, coming into a fight where you were able to withstand a lot? You know, you dropped your opponent and you looked really good in your last bout. You know, what are your thoughts coming into this fight? What are the things you want to write?
For this fight, I just like, I feel, you know, no disrespect to my last opponent, but like, I feel like I beat myself. Like, I feel like I lost, you know. I mean, she won that day. She was better than me that day. But I definitely feel that, you know, that if we rematched, it would be a different outcome. So I don't know where I was going with that. What was the question again?
That's okay. You know, Calvillo since then has been able to kind of keep her successful streak going. So it would be a potentially good matchup down the road if you're able to pull this fight off.
She's a really good fighter. I just feel like that I can be better, you know? So really it's just like my own demons I have to work out. I feel it was all mental, and I feel like I've moved past that, and you know, I could be my worst enemy or my best friend, and I just have to not doubt myself, because physically I know I'm capable of beating her. So
well, as far as your title fight was concerned, the one you actually pulled off, you know,
I know I was talking about Donna. Like, I have no doubt that I could, you know. But you don't step into the cage unless you know.
Well, you know, what's life been like with the Huck's Dogs of War title? You know, kind of carrying it around. Do you carry it with you? Do you have it at home? What's your thing with that?
I really don't, unless people request it. Like, I'm not really like a showboater, you know. Like, I'm kind of more like, I'd rather do my talking in the ring kind of thing. And so, like, unless people request it, like, it pretty much stays at home. But I get to, you know, it's pretty to look at. So.
Do you like invite friends over at least to check it out?
Not to. I mean, when my friends come over, they're like, "Where's your belt? Where's your belt? Like, can I try it on?" You know, type of thing. And I'm cool with that. You know, like.
What's the dynamic as far as being like a fighter and being like a female fighter? You know, when you go out in the cage, you're a completely different beast. You know, you're a fighter at heart. But when you're out and about, you know, you got the hair done. And what's the whole differentiation process as a female?
You know, my day job, I do hair, and like I shock a lot of people, but I love that. Like, I love getting the looks and the questions. You're definitely like a spectacle, but like I like that. You know, like I love the shock factor factor of like you do what, you know, like before MMA it was tackle football, and you know, I was an outside linebacker, so like it's definitely not like a handsy position, you know, and same thing with the MMA. It's like I got into it because I like violent sports, you know, so it's a shock, and I may not be the poster board for, you know, female fighters, but I like that.
Well, last thing I wanted to ask you, you know, when you're able to pull out an MMA Gold event, Art of War title, and your Hugs Dogs of War title, what do you think 2 titles would potentially do for your amateur career moving forward?
I don't know. Like I don't really look at the titles. I mean, they're definitely meaningful, but like I just look at it as another fight, and like I look at my opponent and what I have to do to beat them, and you know, I have a strategy for that, and that's what I'm focused on. I'm not really focused on. I mean, it's like extra candy or so, you know, it's like I don't know, it's just like the icing on the top, you know, like I don't look at it as like another belt to add to the collection or whatever. It's just another bout, and I need to, you know, bring it just like with any other fight.
If you're interested in checking out the October 6th matchup, you check out chickenranchcasino.com for tickets and srmma.com for post-fight coverage. Thank you so much for your time, Arlene.
Thank you.
And there you go. That's the Hugs Dogs of War 145-pound champion. And you better go to chickenranchcasino.com and get tickets for that on October 6th. Also on October 6th in downtown Sacramento, Battle of the Badge event's going to be happening with the State Capitol building as the backdrop. You can go to battleofthebadgessac.com. One of the fights on the card is a CHP versus LAPD, and James Smith is a CHP officer that News 10 was able to do something with as far as getting him prepared, a video getting him prepared for his upcoming bout. If you check out the UnitedCombatAssociation.com, you can check out more information on the blog that's done by our good podcast friend, UCA Rankings Chairman Tom Gaffney, or you can go to their Facebook at United Combat Association. And let's hear a little bit of James Smith on what he had to say in his upcoming fight.
My opponent, I know, is a little bit taller than me, between 3 to 5 inches, so I'm not exactly sure of his height. So that could play as an advantage for him.
What else do you know about your opponent?
I know he works for LAPD. This will be his first fight, so it's my second fight, so we're very close in experience. And each fight, you gain more experience, so this is going to be an experience for me, and I'll be able to walk away with this with more fighting knowledge and more preparedness for my next fight, hopefully.
See if you can get a prediction.
Prediction? Okay.
Oh, real good. You got to call me out on it. I predict that the crowd is going to be very pleased with our fight.
There you go. You can check out battleofthebadgessac.com for ticket information. It's going to be sponsored by Vallejo's Mexican food. I love that stuff. Producer Dennis, can I get a heck yeah?
Hell yeah.
Yeah! Woo! Vallejo's. So yeah, you can check out Battle of the Badges Sack for ticket information, which brings me into this awesome bit of news I wanted to play for you guys. In case you didn't know, Anderson Silva is going to be taking on Stephan Bonner at UFC 153. It's going to be a mess. That is a crazy event. And here's a little promo the UFC put out, so let's take a peek.
Anderson Silva. That is the greatest fighter of all time. The American Psycho. Bonner is really on fire. A front kick to the face. Bonner looking to choke him out. We are ready to see an upset in the making. Unbelievable. They are set to go to battle. Anderson Silva. Stephan Bonner.
And there you go. Anderson the Spider Silva, UFC 153. Check out UFC.com or SRMA.com for more of those details. All of our national coverage today is brought to you by Bulletproof Energy Drinks. So you can check those guys out at bulletproofenergy.com. We have so much still to come. The welterweight champion of Titans Cage, Angelo Trevino, is going to be talking about his title defense. We also have Josh Hinkle, the Rebel Fighter champion, who's going to be fighting at the King of the Cage event, and Nick Christie, who's also going to be fighting on the same event. He was originally scheduled to fight Daniel Price. That event is still going to be going down October 13th, and we're going to be able to talk to them after this quick commercial break, so let's hear a little bit of Bulletproof
Hey,
Energy
Casey,
drink.
what's up? I'm just looking for that afternoon pick-me-up. Have you tried that new Bulletproof Energy drink? Bulletproof? No, I want the energy, but some of those drinks taste pretty nasty. Yeah, but you gotta try Bulletproof. It actually tastes great. There's no bitter aftertaste like those other energy drinks. Oh, and here's the kicker. Bulletproof gives 5 cents of every can sold to wounded veteran foundations. So I get my boost, and I feel good about helping wounded vets. Whoa, you're right. This does taste great. I'm switching to Bulletproof.
Help our wounded vets. Try Bulletproof Energy Drinks at Reeby's Auto Parts and Parker's Hot Dogs.
And Josh Hinkle is going to be fighting. Now, apparently, his fight got switched around because his opponent got injured. Let's before we get into the interviews of Nick Christie and Josh Hinkle, who are going to be fighting October 13th. Let's hear the original 30-second promo from King of
Saturday,
the Cage.
October 13th at Gold Country Casino. Mixed martial arts action returns when King of the Cage and Magnaflow present Double Down. Josh Hinkle has nearly destroyed everyone in his path. Now it's the fight of his career to determine a future shot at the title when he battles Kyle Jackson. Then Aaron Hedrick and Tremaine Smith will battle for control in the welterweight division. Plus, much more on the card. Tickets on sale now at goldcountrycasino.com. Fight card schedule subject to change.
And Nick Christie, we were able to speak to him. He just came off of his loss. It was a really close fight to Marcus Gaines at the West Coast Fighting event. And I had that as fight of the night if you check out srmma.com. You can also follow Verbal Scrap. I want to thank all you guys that are listening tonight and all you guys that are sharing it out there. Verbal Scrap, you can follow us on iTunes. And if you go to the bottom of any of our articles, you can subscribe to the Verbal Scrap feed. Get all kinds of really quick, easy notification and links to everything that we update. Let's get into Nick Christie, who spoke to us about his King of the Cage thoughts. This is JY from srmma.com. We're on the Verbal Scrap Podcast talking to Nick Christie. How you doing today, Nick?
I'm good.
Man, I heard you're going to be fighting on the King of the Cage event coming up October 13th. Can you tell me a little bit more about your thoughts on that now, considering that you were originally set up to fight Daniel Price, and what I hear is that he got injured. They're still looking for an opponent for you as well, though, right?
Yeah, they're still looking for someone, so I'm just waiting for that. Still training hard. That's about it, though.
Well, as far as King of the Cage is concerned, what's your excitement level? What's your thought process going into an event like that? Where they put on a lot of good shows, they put shows on often, so they're seen to a wide public. What are your thoughts on getting on the card that's King of the Cage puts together?
Yeah, they're televised. They're on a lot of TV shows and stuff like that. So I'm real excited about that. Just ready to put on a good fight.
Well, I know you're teamed up with MMA Gold. What's the thought process with that? And, how are your feelings now getting sponsored with guys and being connected as far as what they do with their fighters and kind of getting you guys with gear and things like that? What are your thought process about sponsorship?
Well, I'm good with that, man. Dave Hearnfine is a pretty good dude. He always helps me out anytime I need something. Always hits me up before I fight or with mine and lets me know if I need anything and all that. He's there for me, so...
Well, your last fight, talking to you, your West Coast Fighting, if you are able to check out srma.com, we had an article up that was you and Marcus Gaines. It was a really epic fight. Now that we have an opportunity to talk to you a little bit further down the road, have you been able to check out that fight? And, what's your thought process looking back now?
I haven't seen it off the West Coast, what they filmed. Just some of the friend that filmed it. I watched it. It was a good fight. I don't know. He's a little bit stronger than me. I got a little tired. I wasn't used to gaining that much weight and then dropping it back and trying to put it back on. Other than that, I don't know. I don't know. I ever walk away from someone after I knock him out. It kind of sucks. You walk back up when you hit the ground. So.
Yeah. Well, that was. It was a really big shot you hit him with, and I enjoyed your hands. Are those something you're looking to showcase when coming into this King of the Cage event, or have you added some new wrinkle to your game plan?
Whatever happens. I was trying to tie him up, take him down here and there, even though my hands were looking good, and then he was just stuffing the takedowns and working it out. I'm always going there to throw my hands, and whatever happens.
Well, there's two things I wanted to ask you before we let you go. What's your training been like coming into an event like King of the Cage? What's your thought process as far as your diet, exercise, training? What do you do to keep in shape and keep yourself ready for events?
I'm still always training, always ready for a fight. I always end up taking fights on short notice and whatnot. I always try to train hard for that. I'm dieting a little bit more since we're fighting at 160 on this one. I'm still working my way down to 55, so my diet is a little bit just cut off a little more. Still swimming a lot, doing what I can. Just working on my cardio a little more, different areas, and then just trying to keep my weight, cutting it down. So that's about it.
Well, the last thing I wanted to ask you, I thought it was really interesting because you fight, you go up in weight, you go down in weight. What are your thought processes on if there was a different division? Do you think that you're just like the perfect size for maybe a 165 division if there ever was one, or are you happy to fight at lightweight or move up? What are your thought processes about going between divisions?
Well, most of my fights been at 170. There's a couple of times I just fought at 175. I walk around 73, 70, so when I fought bigger people, that were coming down, like Marcus Gaines and DJ. I kind of put weight on. It was hard to put it on, and then I lose it, and then I try to put it back on. But I don't know. I think I'm just small for 70s, but even going down to 55, there's a lot of people that are big at 55. I don't really lift weights. I'm thinking about starting to do that because I think I'm even small to be a 55er. So, like, you know, depending on where the person's at, 60, 55 is pretty good for me. As long as I put on a little bit more muscle.
Well, there you go. You know, if you want to check out King of the Cage, you can go to kingofthecage.com and buy tickets for the Double Down event on October 13th at the Gold Country Casino. Nick Christie, I thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to hearing positive things from you at the King of the Cage fight, my friend.
You too. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And there you go. That was Nick Christie, who's sponsored by our show sponsor for the day. Let's take a second to learn a little bit more about them. MMA Gold. You can check out MMAGold.com. And the founder and president, Dave Hirschman, you can hit him up at MMAGold.com. If you don't know, they're a full-service fighter sponsorship and apparel company devoted to the fighter. They represent and support their fighters in the sport of mixed martial arts, treating them each and every fighter like an individual business. What they try to do is they try to tailor each of their sponsorship approaches to the individual needs of fighters that they represent. And they feel it allows their fighters to focus their time and energy on developing the strong mental and physical presence as professional fighters that's needed to move forward in the business. You can check out MMAGold.com, which brings us into Josh Hinkle, who's also sponsored by MMA Gold. He's going to be fighting in the main event. He's not going to be fighting Kyle Jackson anymore because Kyle Jackson pulled out, but we were able to talk to him about his last fight and what he's going to be doing for King of the Cage. So let's hear Josh Hinkle. This is JWatt from SRMMA.com. We're on the Verbal Scrap Podcast talking to the main event fighter of the Double Down event, King of the Cage, October 13th, Josh Hinkle. How you doing today, Josh?
Good.
Man, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. You know, I'm looking forward to potentially being able to talk to you victorious after this fight. You're fighting Kyle Jackson. What's your thought process coming into this, having the main event of the evening?
It's so good, man. It's in my hometown, and I'm just ready to fight. I'm not fighting Kyle Jackson anymore. He got hurt. So
oh, man. Everybody seems to be falling off the card. You know, I know that Daniel Price was originally scheduled to take on Nick Christie. He fell off the card. What's your thought process with how this card's filling out? Have they found an opponent for you yet, or are they currently searching for one?
Yeah, no, I have an opponent. He's coming from Hawaii. I'm trying to think of his name. Jonathan, I forgot his last name, but he just fought Crazy Horse and beat Crazy Horse. So he's a good opponent. It's going to be a good fight.
Hey, that's cool that they pulled somebody from the islands for you, man. Those guys are always down to come forward with a war. I just saw Ricky Wallace over at Tai Chi Palace. Those Hawaiian blood guys, they got fists. Are you at all? What's your thought process fighting a guy that you don't really know too much about?
Well, actually, I got a little bit of footage on him for quite a bit, actually.
Nice,
on YouTube.
nice.
So he's definitely aggressive, likes to stand up and strike, pretty good kickboxer, and I think it's going to be a war, man. It's going to be a good fight, you know. I'm pretty aggressive, so.
Well, the last fight I was able to see, you know, I saw you beat Tony Juarez at the Rebel Fighter event for the title. You know, is that the last time you fought before this event?
Yeah, and that fight, I mean, like you could probably tell, I mean, I was working full-time, didn't really, you know, I should have took that a little more serious, but this fight, there's no excuses. I quit my job, and I'm just training full-time, and this is going to be a lot better of a performance.
Well, what's the experience like as far as getting involved with the bigger, better stages? You know, I know you're hooked up with MMA Gold. What's the relationship with Dave Hirschman like, and the sponsorship, and how that whole thing is working out for you guys?
Oh, it's working out good. I mean, he's doing a lot of good things with all these fighters, helping them out and stuff. And he's actually, I just hooked up with him last month. Good sponsor. He's helping me out. So, yeah.
Well, King of the Cage, I know that King of the Cage is putting on a ton of events. You know, they put on a pretty consistent amount of events. They have things throughout the country, you know, Wisconsin, all over the place. What's your thought process getting hooked up with these guys? How do you feel about the involvement with King of the Cage? And if you can, you know, they even say on their trailer for the show that this is really a big fight. You could really boost your name and get into that title hunt for their title. So what's this thought process for you guys?
That's the game plan. That's what I want. I want that King of the Cage title. I mean, everybody probably does. But, no, it's a good show. Al's putting on a great show up here, up north, and I'd love to, hopefully, you know, the next King of the Cage fight, go travel and fight somewhere else. Definitely, like you said, they fight all over, and that's the game plan after this. You know, get through this fight and hopefully get a title shot.
And if you were able to get that title shot, I mean, I know you don't want to think too far ahead, but everybody knows who's at the top of the division, and as far as their division, have you seen many of the top guys that are above you in the King of the Cage kind of rankings as far as getting closer to the title so far?
Yeah, you know, I watched quite a bit of footage on everybody from either 170 pounds to 155. This fight actually is going to be at 160, so they do have a junior welterweight class too. But, yeah, the 70-pound champ, he's a pretty good David Gomez. He's a tough guy. He's he's on a roll right now. So I mean, it'd be all their champs are definitely tough. So it'd be a good fight. Like I said, I'm not looking past this kid, but they're flying out. He's tough and he's coming to bring it. So my focus is on him, and then if I get through that, then I'll start looking, at those other guys.
Well, I know King of the Cage on their website, they have you ranked as the number one contender in the welterweight class. What's the feeling like being ranked that high as on their website and being in an organization where there's a lot of top talent and they see you as the number one guy in the division as a threat to that talent? What are your feelings on being ranked so highly?
It feels good, man. Like, I'm finally getting noticed and stuff. It's been a long time. I just started fighting again, like, the last couple of years. I was out for a couple of years from, 08 to 09. I got hurt and I was out for a while. So I'm coming back, and it feels good to, start getting noticed and stuff.
Well, since you've been coming back, I've noticed the last 5 fights that you've had since 2010, you've won 4 of the 5. What's it feel like to be putting on such a quality show for the fans and building your record in the same time in a positive way? Because you've been able to get quite a few finishes in that time frame.
Yeah, no, it feels good, and it's always different fighting in my hometown of Oroville. I don't know, it's just crazy fighting in your hometown. I'm a lot more amped up, and but yeah, that's why I do it, man, for the fans. Just want to go out there and put on a good show and try not to get hurt,
Yeah, I know. You see a lot of guys trying out for the Ultimate Fighter show lately. A lot of local talent, especially around here in California. What are your thought processes of maybe down the line getting involved with that, or have you ever thought about trying out for that show? Have you done it before? What's that?
I did do it. I flew out to Chicago, and that's when I got hurt. And I took 2 years off. I tore my cartilage real bad in my ribs, and but we went out anyway, and we just taped up my ribs, and I actually, on the tryout, I pulled it and got hurt again, so. But no, I'd love to. I just didn't really look into it, and I missed, seen a couple guys that, in the local area, James Chaney, all those guys that made it on, from our area, Max Griffin and stuff. I probably would have had a good shot at it, but, yeah, the next one that comes around, definitely, I'd like to look into it, try to get on,
Well, sticking to the October 13th matchup, I want to ask you 2 more things before we let you go. With a new opponent, you can't really game plan the same way that you were for the previous opponent, but is the thought process as far as, getting a finish change? Does a fighter ever change that up? Like if you see a guy that you feel you might have a standing advantage and you're looking to get a knockout, when a new fighter comes in, are you looking to finish in a completely different way, or are you looking to finish the same way, just kind of working to your own skill set?
Well, things change quite a bit because this kid's obviously a lot different than Kyle Jackson. I'm looking at a guy that was 5'10", more of a counter striker. This kid's 6'1", he's a southpaw. So yeah, it definitely changes things up in the camp. So I've been working, against, in southpaws. I got a few, and it definitely changes things up for sure. Yeah, I still train hard, do the same stuff I'm doing, just work a few things different in the camp now, and just go out there and be aggressive and fight.
Well, that's the last thing I wanted to ask you. I've noticed that of your 10 professional wins, you've got 8 of those by finish. Is that something that you think is going to be your biggest advantage, looking to knock on the door of the UFC and stuff like that when they are looking at other guys as opposed to you guys? Not only that you are able to get these victories, but you're able to finish these guys?
Yeah, when anytime I go into a fight, I'm looking to finish it. I don't want to drag the fight out, and be a boring guy. So I'm always going to, try to go for the finish and get in and get out.
There you go. Josh Hinkle is going to be fighting on October 13th under the King of the Cage banner, trying to get his way up to the welterweight title shot. Thank you so much, Josh, for talking to us.
All right, thank you.
And there you go, Josh Hinkle. Like I said, you got to go to kingofthecage.com and get tickets to see that guy. I saw him at a Rebel Fighter event. He was able to bring home the Rebel Fighter title, and he looked really good. Which brings us into our local coverage that we went to of a Muay Thai kickboxing event, IKF. It was presented by LTD Productions and BCF Productions as well. The Art of War is what it was entitled. There was a lot on the card, and it's brought to you today by theredpit.com. You can check out theredpit.com for all kinds of rehab and gym membership equipment. They'll be down to help you out there in Folsom, California. So if you're interested in getting any sort of rehabilitation services or just getting back in shape and getting some really good stuff, check out theredpit.com. Let's get into our first interview from the IKF event.
This is JWA from SRMMA.com. We're here live at the kickboxing event Art of War happening at the Madison Jackson Sports Academy. We're talking to James Holz, who was victorious tonight. You know, what are your thoughts on the fight, although it was rather quick?
Yeah, you know, I just went out there and did what I was, trained to do. I'm a kicker all around. I practice in Taekwondo, so I usually rely on my kicks. But tonight, you know, I felt my hands connecting a lot more than my kicks. You know, I only threw like one kick, but as soon as I felt my hands connecting, I just let them fly. And the more I let them fly, the more I connected, and that's what helped me win the fight.
That's what it looked like. It looked like you flurried first, kind of caught him off balance, and then you looked like a switch turned on. Like you realized, I'm just going to push the pace and kind of go. Is that what you saw?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I thought.
Well, speaking of the last thing I wanted to ask you, the finish itself. Were your thoughts that he was actually going to stop the fight after you rocked him, or what were your thoughts on the actual stop?
Honestly, I thought because the first time I knocked him down, I really thought he was going to stop it, because when I first knocked him down, I could have swore I saw his eyes roll to the back of his head, and that could have been it. But he got back up and he kept coming. But that second time I knocked him down, blood started coming out. Ref called it, and it made me feel good.
There you go. Post-fight coverage at SRMA.com. Thanks for talking to us, James.
Thank you.
And there you go. And that was getting into our coverage that took place on September 28th. And it was pretty good. It was like 20-something fights. So I have to say, those guys put on a really good show. You can check all that stuff out at facebook.com/SRMMA. You totally got to stay in tune with our social media. You can find us on Twitter at SRMMA tweets. And like I said, go to our Facebook. You can check out all kinds of our photos. If you want to see some really awesome shots from our photographers from the event, there's going to be more coming up soon. We just put the first batch out. So go to our social media and find that out. The main event of the evening, Christine Ferreira, she was able to win the title. She maintained her undefeated streak, and she took on Kat Feely, who was also undefeated. Somebody's O had to go, and she was victorious. And we had the opportunity to speak to her after her fight, so let's hear what she had to say.
This is JWA from SRMMA.com. We're here live at the Art of War Kickboxing and Muay Thai event with the West Coast Bantamweight Women's Champion, Christine Ferreira. Did I say it right?
Yeah,
Ferreira. I had it. That's cool. I edited it out. But, how does it feel to, with the title around your waist, being back here backstage with the team now that the fight's over?
Oh, I don't even know what to feel right now. Just all my hard work, years of hard work have paid off. Believing in myself, I believe in myself for sure now. If I had any doubts before, it's gone.
Well, both of you guys are undefeated coming into this fight. What was that like for you, knowing that somebody's O had to go?
Well, I knew it was going to be the hardest fight of my life, and we both had the same record, 4-0. I just knew it was going to be tough, and this was a true test of my heart and how much of a warrior I am. So.
Well, your opponent, Kat Feely, she looked like she was a game opponent. You hit her with some really hard shots, and she kept coming. What were your thoughts on her game plan and her aggression coming towards you, and how you were able to counter that?
I knew her game plan was going to be to clinch. Once she felt my power, I knew she was going to want to clinch, and I just knew to stick and move, hit her, get out of the way, just stick and move.
Well, two more things for you. One, tell us about your training in preparation for this fight, knowing especially that it was going to be a title fight, and it's the main event of the evening, kind of a lot of pressure knowing you're the biggest spectacle. So kind of what was the background of your build-up to this fight?
I've been training Muay Thai for about 4 or 5 years. My training this camp was about 6 weeks. We've been training hard, CrossFit, cardio, a lot of sparring, pad work, repetitive, consistent training, I've been training. I train every day. I don't skip. If I'm sick, I don't care. I'm in there, And my coach and my team pushed me hard and believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and didn't give up on me when I wanted to give up on myself,
Well, the last thing I have for you is, now that you got the title, what's the first thing you're going to do tonight? You're going to rest? You're going to party? Or are you going to get some food? What's your game plan now that you're the champion?
I am going to eat. I cut a lot of weight this fight, and just going to enjoy. I guess I'm going to party a little bit.
Well, there you go. Post-fight coverage at SRMA.com. I want to thank you so much for talking to us, Christine.
Thank you.
And that was not the only female fight on the card. Morgan Hunter took on Ramona Carlos, and it was the first fight for both of those women as well. And Morgan Hunter of Sacramento, California, she was able to pull out the victory. In the first round, she looked a lot like the more cleaner, crisper striker. She was able to get to the punch a little bit faster, throw the straighter punches. In the second round, she was just kind of teeing off, and even the corner for Carlos threw in the towel. We were able to speak to her. She was really stoked about her victory. So let's hear how excited she was.
This is Jay Watt from SRMMA.com. We're here live at the Art of War Kickboxing Muay Thai event with a victorious Morgan Hunter. How did it feel to first and foremost get the victory?
Dude, it felt awesome. I just want to go in there and kill her. I know that sounds violent, but, I just want to get in there, make it a quick night, you know what I mean? So that's what I did. Felt good.
Well, it is a violent sport, so, it's a fair assessment. But, what were your thoughts of your opponent after going into combat with her?
I think she's good. She probably, got some work to do, as we all do, You just got to start here, start small shows, and, just get it in, get better, go back to training, and, just get it in. That's what we call it.
Well, as far as the fight itself, you look like your hands were a little bit faster. You were able to land a lot more cleaner, effective punches. What was your assessment of the quality of punches you were able to land as opposed to your opponent?
It was those gloves. My last couple fights, we had 16-ounce gloves, and it's like trying to punch with pillows, so it was the gloves. They were quick, they're thin, I don't know. Just working on my punches, training with Chris Jones, Knuckles Fitness, over on Manzanita. Come check us out. He's been working on my hands, working on my stand-up, and, we've been getting it in. There you go.
Well, the last thing I wanted to ask you, how important is it to you as a female fighter, moving forward in your career to get finishes, not just, go out there and it kind of feels like there's more pressure on female fighters to kind of put more of a spectacle on. Do you feel any of that pressure, and what do you feel that a KO finish technically, the towel getting thrown in, it's pretty much the same thing. What do you feel that propels you personally forward as a female fighter?
That's, I think you make a good point. That's what I try to do, to bring more attention to female sports. It's not all about laying, praying, wrestling. A lot of girls don't like to stand and bang. I love to stand and bang. I don't like that ground stuff. I don't like the Muay Thai clinch. I want to stand and bang and make it a quick night like I did today. So
there you go. Post-fight coverage at SRMA.com. Thanks for talking to us, Morgan.
Thank you so much. You have a good one.
And the females put on a show at this event. Those were the only two fights that I was able to see of the female ranks, but they were good, man. And you can check out SRMMA.com coming soon within the next few days of all of our coverage. It's going to be coming out full of photography. Like I said, you can find us on Facebook.com/SRMMA for more of those details, which brought me into this big knockout. It was spectacular. It was Brandon Andrews, and he came out. I was surprised. He fought Rafael De La Rosa, and man, De La Rosa looked like he was moving well, and Andrews came out in the first round. He was throwing power shots. He was looking to finish early, and it looked like he got just a little bit tired. De La Rosa was able to move around, and it got all the way to the second. It looked like De La Rosa was landing some good stuff. He was able to get it in, and all of a sudden, bam, Andrews knocks him out cold with a big shot. And there's a great picture. If you check out our Facebook, there's a great picture of the guy out on the mat, and Andrews with his arms up in the background like, yeah, I knocked him out. We were able to talk to him after the fight, so let's hear what Andrews had to say.
This is Jay Watt from SRMA.com. We're here live at the Art of War event happening at the Jackson Sports Academy. We're talking to victorious Brandon Andrews. How did it feel to get your first victory, first and foremost?
It felt a little surreal at first because I've been training for a little over 2.5 months now. I didn't really know what to expect. Went out there, second round, saw an opening after my push kick, and I took it, and it turned out for me. So
it looked like early on in the fight you were really aggressive. Like you wanted to come out and hit him hard. Was that the game plan?
Yes, my coach told me to come out hot. Don't go in there cold. You always want to get the first couple kicks in there and strike fear into your opponent. So that was my plan going out there.
Well, it looked like he was trying to be more relaxed, laid back, and maybe kind of counter you. Were you aware of that while you were inside the ring?
I was aware of that. Yeah, he tried to get inside and get the clinch. He's a Muay Thai fighter, so he's trying to get inside on me. So I just tried to keep him back with my push kicks and my reach on my kicks. So I started to work more in the second round once I started to throw my kicks a little more.
Well, last thing I wanted to ask you, about the finish itself. It looked like he was coming on strong, and they just hit him with a big right hand, just dropped him. That was it. What kind of a feeling is that? Not only to get your first win that way, but to end it in that sort of final fashion.
Oh man, there's no words to describe that. That was one of the greatest feelings I've had in a while. So just leave it at that. That was just a great feeling.
There you go. Post-fight coverage at SRMA.com. Thank you for talking to us, Brandon.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And knockouts were the order of the night. Mario Banks, who he put on a 3-round war and was still able to finish late. You see a lot of guys that come out and they're able to knock out guys early, and that is a talent upon itself. You got to have a lot of power to get that done. But I think if you're able to withstand a couple rounds of a really back and forth bout and still get to finish late, which Mario Banks was able to do in the third, that's a testament to the fortitude you got and the training you put in. We were able to talk to him after the fight, and he was excited as well. He felt like he's working real hard. And he was a pleasure to watch in the ring. Let's hear what he had to say.
This
is JWA from SRMA.com. We're here live at the Art of War Kickboxing and Muay Thai event talking to a victorious Mario Banks. How does it feel to have that said?
It feels great, man. Trained hard and it feels great to, win. Yeah.
Well, about the fight itself, it looked like your opponent was a game opponent and you came out swinging and aggressive, and you were able to take some of his earlier shots that looked stiff and hard and kind of outlast him. What are your thoughts on the fight?
Well, with the hard training, it prepared me for it all. So training was the hardest part, and the fight just came naturally, I guess. Yeah.
Well, as far as your opponent's game plan, it looked like he came out really aggressive. Is that something you were aware of in the ring, and how did you effectively counter that to get the finish?
I just was always told to just take my time, just analyze the situation and just push forward. So that's, just went with the game plan. Yeah.
What kind of training do you do, as far as gas tank wise, to kind of keep the stamina going and outlast your opponents?
A lot of running. Yeah, running, cardio. Yeah, that's it.
Well, moving forward, what do you think this fight means for you? What are your goals for kickboxing combat as a whole? What are your plans moving forward?
Definitely more amateurs, and we'll see where else that goes, I guess. Yeah.
And the last thing I wanted to ask you, what does it mean to you to kind of get a victory where, it's not just a fluky thing where things are happening tonight, like cuts and stuff like that, but you're actually able to get the finish, get the referee to hop in and stop the fight. What does it mean to you to have a finish like that for the fans watching?
It feels great, man. It feels great. It tells that hard work definitely pays off, and that feels great. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Post-fight coverage at SRMA.com. Thanks for talking to us, Mario.
Thank you so much, man.
And that'll conclude the kickboxing coverage segment of our show tonight. And like I said, those were really, really good shows. I really enjoyed them, and I want to thank them very much for inviting SRMMA out to come there. And you can check out our Facebook, facebook.com/SRMMA, to stay in tune with some of our photography and all of our really cool photos that we got from the fights, so you can see all that stuff there. And that'll, like I said, that's going to be brought to you by redpit.com. They do all sorts of our local coverage, and I want to give a big shout out to Ty Silva for all his awesomeness, so thank that guy. Let's get back in some of our national news before we leave. UFC on Fuel TV also happened since the last time we were able to talk, folks. And it was also a pretty good barn burner to happen in Nottingham, England at the Capital FM Arena, September 29th. Stefan Struve took on Stipe Miocic in the main event of the evening. He was able to win by TKO. Dan Hardy won a decision victory over Amir Sadallah. And the fight I want to talk about is knockout of the night. He picked up 40 extra G's. Brad Pickett just KO'd Yves Rabin, and it was in the first round, and he just caught him cold. And he spoke post-fight about it, and the whole fight as to how he saw it. So let's hear what he had to say.
I didn't see that coming as much as in, like, I was so happy to get a knockout, to be honest, because I've got a lot of submissions on my record, and it kind of like, it made my mockery of my nickname called One Punch. So I was actually glad. I know I hit hard, and, it was just a case of landing it. I was looking for the heavier punches where he was being quite elusive, moving around and stuff like that. He had kicking, and he was hard to hit, So I got him up against towards the cage, and I dipped down as if I was maybe going to take a shot, and I just came back up with uppercut and just landed perfectly.
It was, for a while there, it was like a sort of kicking versus punching battle. Yeah. And very technical, very precise. Do you kind of feel like that to you? Find the kicking game awkward?
To be honest, technically, I think he's one of the best strikers, if not the best, because he's got everything. Me, I'm a boxer, I did throw a few little kicks in that fight, and I'm never doing it again because my foot's killing me. But, I'm more of a boxer. He was a kickboxer. Very technical. I just think I hit harder, and I connected tonight,
And that's surely what he did. He was able to connect, and he won himself, like I said, $40,000. But the main bonus fight of the night went to the main event of the evening: Stefan Struve versus Stipe Miocic. For you guys that don't have UFC on Fuel TV, I feel you. I don't even know another show that's on the Fuel TV network that doesn't involve the UFC. So if you don't have it, I don't blame you. But let's hear the last thing we want to do of national coverage for the night: a UFC Fuel TV 5 event recap with John Anik and Kenny Florian
closing it down here in Nottingham, England. It was UFC on Fuel TV 5. Finishes galore all night long. A great fight crowd from the press conference to the weigh-in, and of course, straight on through the main event here tonight. And the big heavyweight winner was Stefan Struve. 4 straight UFC wins, all of them finishes.
Yeah, they really brought it tonight. Both these guys had back and forth exchanges. Definitely had their moments in the first round and in the second round. Both guys definitely hurt each other throughout this fight, but it was Stefan Struve. Once he hurt Miocic, he never let him off the hook. We didn't really see too much wrestling from Miocic, but we've seen him strike with other guys in the past. Just a great fight.
And for Stipe Miocic, he falls from the ranks of the unbeaten here. It was a step up in competition, but this is a different Stefan Struve, really every fight.
Without a doubt. He really started getting his jab going in the second round. He adjusted. You're seeing his really how he's evolving as a fighter, how he's maturing as a fighter, and look right there.
And he says we've only seen 20% of what he can do on the ground. We saw what he did on the feet here tonight. Scary to think how good the 24-year-old Stefan Struve can be when his UFC career is all said and done. The night's biggest star, though, here was the local boy, without question, Dan Hardy, returning to fight in Nottingham for the first time since 2008, and he put it on Amir Sadala pretty good there down the stretch.
You know, Amir Sadala made it a very close first round. That was a back-and-forth first round, but Dan Hardy really took over in the second and third round, mixing up with his wrestling, showed some great ground and pound. He cut Amir Sadala on both sides of his face, just looked phenomenal out there, and put it on for the hometown crowd.
And a couple years ago, you wondered if this moment would ever materialize for Dan Hardy, given some of his struggles. Well, it materialized, and as a guy who fought in Boston, Massachusetts at one time, this had to be pretty special for Dan tonight.
There could be so much pressure on you fighting in your hometown, but having those hard lessons, going through those losses will definitely wake you up, and you can see the hard work really paying off for Dan Hardy.
Bottled those emotions in the first 5 minutes and then turned it on in rounds 2 and 3. Well, the hits keep on coming for us. We will see you next Friday night. It is UFC on FX5. Talk to you from Minneapolis.
And there you go. That was the UFC on Fuel TV 5 event recap. You can check out more information on srmma.com. And remember, all of our national coverage was brought to you by Bulletproof Energy Drinks. You can find Bulletproof Energy in over 800 locations, or go to bulletproofenergy.com, helping wounded veterans one can at a time. Which brings us to our last interview of the evening, the welterweight champion of Titans Cage. If you'd like to check out Titans Cage information, first I advise you to go to the SR exclusive tab. That is at srmma.com for all of our news and up-to-date information that we have about Titans Cage. You can also check out thetitanscage.com. Their event happening October 20th at the Elk Grove Asian Sports Complex is going to be going down with welterweight title implications. Armando Sabala Jr. taking on Angelo Baby Monster Trevino, and we had the opportunity to speak to him, so let's hear what the welterweight champion had to say about defending his title. This is Jay Watt from SRMMA.com on the Verbal Scrap Podcast, talking to the Titans Cage welterweight champion, Angelo Baby Monster Trevino. How you doing today, Angelo?
Good. How you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. I don't know if you had a chance to check it out, but on our SR exclusive tab, we got Titans Cage information. We got all kinds of information on you. You got your own little link there, man. You got to check it out sometime.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about your title fight on October 20th. You're going to be fighting Armando Sabala Jr., and this guy, he's a pretty tough opponent as far as his record. He's been able to knock out all his opponents. You yourself also undefeated. What are your thoughts, first and foremost, coming into this matchup, being your first title defense and having such a stout opponent?
I think basically amateur MMA is a good organization and everything, but when you're undefeated, it doesn't really, really matter and show your all your strengths and weaknesses. So I honestly think that we have a long way to go, and no one's going to come undefeated, be undefeated after this fight, of course. But I've been training my butt off in wrestling, everything, and I don't know how good his wrestling is, but it doesn't seem to show in this fight. So, you know what? I respect the dude, but I'm really pumped for this, and more than ever, more than any other fight. And I'm going to be in my best shape that I've ever been, so I'm really excited.
The second big thing I wanted to ask you is, you're getting in shape process. What has been your training getting into this fight, especially considering, and also what's your life been like since you've had the title? What are your feelings? Do you feel like, a little bit more respect maybe as far as training partners or anything like that? Do you feel anything like that since then while you've been traiing for this particular battle?
Yeah, I do feel a little bit more respect, but I'm from like a big gym that's have champions all over from
Team Alpha Male, right?
Amateurs. So it's just like a thing that we is expected almost. But everyone gives you respect for that. Everyone gives you praise, But I don't think anything's really changed, But considering the fact that I am the title holder, I think I have more of a responsibility to show that I'm there for a reason.
That you deserve the title is what you're saying?
Huh?
You mean you feel like you have some sort of pressure to kind of show why you're the champion?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think I have a lot of pressure. Seeing my last performance, I wasn't really happy with it at all. And I just really want to, show who I am in this fight, because going against a stand-up fighter, it's going to be a really good challenge. So I just want to show like everyone out there that I could stand and, you know, have a good ground game at the same time.
Well, I wanted to ask you, coming into this event, like you said, he's a strong stand-up guy. I was able to see his last couple fights, and it seems like guys try to take him down because of his hands. But I also saw, like you said, in your last fight, when you were able to win the title, you took on Nico Jackson. You can check out SRMA.com for that coverage as well. And you looked pretty good. You looked very confident to stand and bang on your hands. But, like, you train with Team Alpha Male, so I know you get a lot of wrestling training, and you kind of come from that background. Coming into this fight, do you see yourself wanting to test your stand-up, considering he's a striker, or do you thinking you might just want to be able to take him down to where you're strong and just finish it that way?
I think I want to do both, of course. You know, I want to see, you know, how well I am in standing up with him, just to show that, you know, wow, Angelo Trevino does have some solid stand-up with this guy. That's all about stand-up, you know. But if I'm not a dumb fighter, if it does go his way, or if there's any, like, you know, essence that he's, you know, dominating or even being close to dominating me, standing up, I'm going to take it to where I'm comfortable, always, you know. So I'm really excited, you know. I've been, you know, training my butt off. So
yeah, for sure. Well, there you go. If you're looking to find tickets, you can check out thetitanscage.com. And for more information on Angelo Trevino, you can check out SRMA Exclusive. It's a tab at SRMA.com. Thank you so much for talking to us, welterweight champion, and I hope October 20th you're able to put on a really good show for all the fans and kind of showcase what you're hoping to showcase, my friend.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And that'll conclude our Strikeforce Really? show on the Verbal Scrap Podcast, episode 26. I want to thank all the fans that have made it possible for us to do this show. We're now broadcasting from our own channel. You can stay in touch with us on our social media at SRMMA Tweets, Facebook.com/SRMMA. I want to thank all of the people that talked to us at the fights. You know, it's not possible to make this news happen for all the fans without the fighters, so big thanks to the fighters. And I want to thank our sponsor for the show, MMAGold.com, full-service fighter sponsorship and apparel company. Check out MMAGold.com. That'll do it for us. And like I said, check out in the bottom of all of our articles. You can follow us on iTunes, follow the Verbal Scrap feed, and just follow everything we do. I mean, why not? You guys are awesome fans, and it's been a pleasure to have you guys on the show. I'm out.